Charmaine, peace and freedom. Nini, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imaku. It's my pleasure to be with you on this night of ancestral reverence, which actually is something that is part of the everyday life of somebody who is in Khametic practice. But at this time of year, we are honoring our ancestors along with others around the world, and we are coming to somewhat of a close of our Hebwe Gu, which is ancestor season. Ancestor season for us officially begins at the Kemetic New Year. So it starts the same day. It generally ends in November. Uh, the strongest days are what would be known as Halloween, October 31st, November 1st and 2nd, All Saints and All Souls Day. And why is that? Because globally, people recognize it. And there's just something about the energy and also about the fact that the veil is very thin and that there is an exceeding amount of communication with our ancestors during this time in dreams and so forth. By the way, please share that I'm on the air. And um, if you are on YouTube, please be sure to hit subscribe and to like in order to boost the numbers up. And I want to say if Moot Trisha is watching, I love you so much, and I am here. Call me if you need me. But I truly do appreciate the fact that you said that you miss seeing me come on the air, and others mentioned to me today as well. Are you going to come on and so forth? And so I have been rather busy, yes, in a good way. Um, but by the same token, I've had still pulling things in my life back together and being very measured in that. So thank you so much, though, for your love and your support and for your prayers. And let's jump in. I think I'm going to let me see if I can bring in my other channel here. I was going to not include my profile page, but I'm going to bring it in. How's that? They're saying offline. Okay. Hey, I tried, right? Okay. And so, how is this day for you all? Let me go to the chat and see what's going on. Shawanda, peace and blessings. It's good to see you. And Brother Brandon, of course, it's always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much. Please again share that I'm on the air. We will be doing a meditation when this is drawing to a close. But let's talk about exactly what this time of year is and how this relates to Kemetic culture. And, there's always been this whole thing about the Book of the Dead, the great misunderstanding about what that is. The true name is the Peret Emcheru and Ger, which is the book of coming forth by day from night. It's the book of spiritual awakening. It is the book that helps the soul travel through the afterlife and make it to the throne of grace. And then basically he has to defend his life as far as his life on earth. So it is a multi-layered book because it also gives indications about how we should live. If you follow or indulge in the sacred texts that came out of ancient Kemet, then you'll find that they're guides for living. And there is a passage that was left behind by, where are my glasses? Here we go. B. Lotus, how are you? By Pahiri. Pahiri was a nobleman, and he left a message behind on his tomb. Now, people are always saying that Kemites were preoccupied with death. It's not so much they were preoccupied with death. They prepared for it. They believed in preparing for it. And there are many passages in texts that were left behind indicating the importance of knowing where you're going to be buried, knowing how you're going to be buried, knowing that you're not going to be a burden on your family, and also knowing that the goal is to be an ideal soul that is in a position to be able to help the family living on earth. And it's understood that there is the astral realm, the various levels of the astral realm, and those are considered the ancestral realms as well. But um, the point, though, is in having a life that is exemplary so that you're able to make it to Wasir's throne of grace, have your heart measured to see if it is as light as a feather. And truly, if you have lived in my age, if you have lived a harmonious, balanced, just, orderly life. Now, this does not mean that you've lived in some la-di-da place, okay? It's not Shangri-La we're talking about. It's talking about doing your best and knowing that there are challenges that are presented to you, and knowing that you have learned through each of the challenges, and that you have decided to be a really outstanding individual, a good person for your family, for your community, for your fellow priesthood members, if you happen to be a priest, if you are a common person, and there's nothing wrong with being a common person. And I just want to also say, we have this misconception that if you step into a tradition, an African-centered tradition, that you must enter as a priesthood member, and that is not the truth. The truth is that you want to enter to learn how to make this not just fit into your life, but for it to become part of you, blood and bone, so that it is your filter. I spoke last week at our Northeast Regional ASCAC conference. And for those of you who don't know, I am the leader of our new local Newark, Brick City ASCAC chapter. ASCAC, the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. It's a privilege to be a part of it. It's a privilege to have been asked to take a chapter. And I know, now listen, don't confuse this with my being president of National Action Network, the local Brick City chapter. These are two different entities. And ASCAC, as the acronym is for the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, is dedicated to the study and teaching of the truth of African origins, African history, African culture, how it affects us. And this includes Nile Valley Civilization, or Hapi Valley Civilization. And so it's a pleasure to be with others who are really about that life, the geek life, if you will, but being committed to learning and teaching the truth. And in our group, I encourage the members to also take on a leadership role. This is something I tend to do as a teacher anyway. I like to give power, give people a chance to build their muscles, whether it's in leadership, teaching. But anyway, it's an opportunity for us all to learn and to share, and it's a joy to be able to share all the knowledge I've amassed over all these years. Now, we have been studying the sacred texts, which have talked about the importance of living well, the importance of how you conduct yourself in business situations, in your home, for men, how to deal with their wives and show her respect, and really understanding the very worthwhile role that the pivotal role that she plays in building generational wealth for a family, and also in building the family to look out for one another. Gracious Sunchild, it's good to see you. Peace and blessings. So I love that. I love me too. I love that. So, and please share that I'm on. Please click like. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. And we're talking about the Khametic influence on today's well-known ancestral reverence practices, such as Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. And also, this is Fet Gede, Yesterday was Halloween, and Fête Gede is the ancestral reverence that starts in the Haitian Vodun tradition. And there are Day of the Dead celebrations throughout the diaspora. They may have different names, but basically it is the same. Let me just also jump to this in terms of understanding the difference. There is a difference between Halloween, which was originally called All Hallows Eve, but also known as Samhain. What today is practiced as far as Halloween is concerned is nothing like the traditions that are more indigenous based. De los Muertos, they have ofrendas, which is the ancestral altar. We call it the Kaut Iakui Shepsu. The idea is that you give offerings to your ancestors. And if you've seen the movie Coco, then you get a really good idea of the Khametic concept for how it works with them coming across the bridge and being able to visit their loved ones and having offerings there and having the picture up to show that they're not forgotten is important to those who have departed and who do know us. We may not know all of their names, but they know us. And the idea also is that you continue to evolve together as a soul group. So that generally when you transition, then you're going to have loved ones there who have already transitioned who are going to help to bring you across. Now, the whole idea, Sophia Sulfur, it's good to see you. Thank you. The whole idea of having what developed in European cultures with basically a mob mentality that was sometimes created, going around and terrorizing your neighbors, harassing them if they didn't give you something. Although I do have to say, in Jamaica, they do have the John Cano tradition. With John Cano, you have people who are dressed up as spirits, and they will go up and they'll sing and they'll dance for you, and then they expect you to give them some money. And if you don't, then they will ruin you to filth. They will stand there and talk about how cheap you are, talk about you ain't nobody, you ain't got nothing, and who are you anyway? So, and then another version of that is held on. I can't believe all this information I have in my head. That is held on New Year's Day in Philadelphia. There's a group of musicians called Mummers, and they dress up in gigantic outfits and so forth, and there's like string bands, but the tradition is one that is born out of both Caribbean culture and also the culture of mummers that started in England. Okay, so that's a tradition again where it's more aggressive, shall we say. When it comes to ancestor reverence, though, we don't worship ancestors, we revere them, we give them respect, and we admire the wonderful things that they did in life, and also the help that those who were directly involved in our lives with gave us, and also the invisible hands, as we call them, that were there and continue to be there for us in order to help us with our lessons in life and also to succeed. But again, back to the whole thing of it being something that is about sharing love and that honor, and you're laying down offerings. Now, in Kemet, they had what was called the Hetep tablet. This was a tray, a sacrificial tray that was used in ceremony. So in our tradition, in Shenu, it is a symbol of initiation. When you enter initiation, you have your Hetep tablet, and you have various things on it, and you present it as a way of saying that you are presenting yourself in sacrifice. You're presenting your life as sacrifice because you are stepping into the ministry as a priest or priestess. This is not about human sacrifice. This is about the acts that you do in doing things that are going to help the community as an act of sacrifice. It is iri, the action. And but also the action of having a Hetep tablet when you're dealing with going to the ancestral grave is a big deal. So the idea is that you place your offering down, you have the favorite foods of the dear loved one, and people would spend time talking with that loved one. Now, there was a tradition that started here when parks developed, and then when cemeteries started to be developed more like parks, like there's Greenwood Cemetery over in Brooklyn. And Greenwood Cemetery is quite a beautiful place. It was designed by the same man who designed Central Park and some other noteworthy parks as well. So people would go on carriage rides and bring a basket of food and a blanket and go and visit their loved ones. They would lay the blanket down on the grave or at the crypt and sit there and while away the hours enjoying the beautiful ambiance of the park and also the time spent with the ancestor. This goes all the way back in ancient African culture. And the idea that you would visit your loved ones, that you clean their graves, their memorials, their crypts on a regular basis, and knowing that they were there for you. But, there is also the idea with with some where, much like in Dominican voodoo, their belief is that the ancestors have done their work. They've done their service here on the planet. They fulfilled their purpose, and you don't want to bother them, and you want to let them rest. Okay, there's that, right? And with some, that's true. But there are also those who want to have a chance to kind of fix their karma. Okay, in Brazil, in Umbanda tradition, they believe in giving their ancestors a chance to work with them, and the idea is that you kind of work symbiotically, right? So now you have to be careful because, as I always say, what a person lived as is what they wake up as in the next life. If somebody has lived a really ratchet life, you cannot expect that when they wake up in the next life, that all of a sudden they're going to be this wonderful angelic person. That's just not reality, okay? Because the energy that you had in life is what you bring with you. The consciousness you had in life is what you bring with you as well. If you have someone who was very selfish, didn't give a whit about you, and actually wanted to see you fail, then you can't expect that they're going to want to see you succeed in the next life. So you have to be realistic about the relationship that you do have with your ancestors. And there is a distinction. I always say this. You have those who have transitioned and who are ancestors because of the fact that they've lived an exemplary life. They've been good people, right? And then you have those who just die, okay? And they're not really considered ancestors. Those are the lost, departed ones who tend to become wandering ghosts. They wrote about this in Kemet. The goal was not to become a wandering ghost. The reason that all your things were put in one place when you died was so that you wouldn't go wandering around trying to find your stuff. This is trying to contain the energy and trying to get you to wake up into the reality of the fact that you have transitioned and now you need to move on to the Great Hall in order to find out whether you're going to go forward as an ancestor or if you have to go back in the recycle bin. Now, in one of the tomb writings, because I started to say that people would build their tombs, they would build great monuments to themselves, and they would also leave a biographical work behind that was generally carved into the walls in Kemet. There was the tomb of Paheri, who was a nobleman, as I started to say. And he wanted to make sure that he was thought of well. People would cite the great things that they did, or at least want people to believe that they did in life, and want you to continue to give them the praise that is due them, or at least that they believe is due them, and to not ignore their tomb. The idea is very much like in Coco, where if you didn't have somebody on your ofrenda, then that meant the person eventually would be forgotten. It's the same idea as how in Kemet, if you were not considered somebody noteworthy, then they would either chip your name off of the registers, they would chip your face away from all the images that they had. It's like you all of a sudden you just don't exist. Okay. And it's like that also for those of us who are practitioners who will tend to erase people who have been pretty dastardly and who we have given chances to correct themselves and then turn around and are just not good people to have around you. So that basically means you become erased. Let me just say something really quickly on that too. It's been a while since I've said this, but I feel like I really need to restate this, only because of certain people who've contacted me. I go through this thing where there'll be people who will just up and leave because they think it's too hard, or they get put out because they're disrespectful, or because the fact that they think that they don't have to pay for their lessons, but they can go traipsing all over the world and not give a whit about the person that they owe money to. And then they try to come back to me as a student. So I just want to make this very, very clear. If I've not talked to you for several years, if I've given you several chances and you've been put out or you left, and I have not contacted you or responded to your phone calls, don't call me. Okay? Just don't. Don't call me. Don't text me. You've been erased. Okay? That's for peace on my side, and also out of fairness, because there are plenty of students who work extremely hard and are devoted to the work, devoted to the idea of, not just the idea of priesthood, but the commitment that it takes, and are willing to put in that work and also show their teacher respect. That's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Okay? So I just need to state that. Okay. And those folks out there know who they are. Okay? So, going back to Paheri. So he left behind this writing. Like the third time I put my glasses on, third or fourth. And it says, while I was on earth among the living, no injustices toward God were counted against me, and I became a blessed spirit. I have furnished my home in the realm of the nature, and is here by all my good works. That should be am here. Still, I will not fail to answer any prayer. A dead man becomes father to any who assists him in the afterlife. He will not forget one who pours libation to honor his memory. It is good for you to remember this. So Okay, on the one hand, that's cool. He's basically he's making himself sound like, listen, I'll be your personal genie if you just come and pour libation to me, bring me offerings. I'll hook you up. So it didn't occur to me until like last year. What happens if he didn't do any of these things? What happens if he was a jerk? And time will pass. And for the people who were living, who knew him, who could attest to the fact that this man was just a jerk. He had money. He was able to build himself a tomb. He was able to have these flattering words written about him, but he ain't doing none of this stuff. Okay. But see, for somebody who comes along later, like way after, like us, we're inclined to believe, wow, so he did all these things. Okay. But if he didn't, then that just makes him a wandering ghost. And that's pretty much the last kind of individual that you want to deal with if you don't know anything about what their lives were like, and if you don't have validation that they are who they claim to be. You could have a problem on your hands, because you can end up having something attached that is a spirit with an agenda. You don't know. Maybe the person died from some disease that was basically their karma. There are those who die angry because they feel like they've been taken off the planet too soon. And next thing you know, you could find yourself with a spirit attached to you that is trying to get you to do all the things that they feel that they still had to accomplish in life. And your life is no longer your own. So you need to be careful about this, all right? Just like when I warn people about going to graveyards, like I was just sharing with you about going to Greenwood Cemetery. And let me just tell you, it is a beautiful cemetery. It's one of these things where you need to take a day, a really nice day, like the weather we've been having here in the Northeast. Take a nice day and make the trip, because there are a lot of celebrities that are buried there. And above or beyond that, the architecture of many of the mausoleums are stunning, and they're based on Khametic imagery. There is actually a miniature pyramid, or merkut, that someone who obviously was a mason had made for himself, has the two lions outside, has the imagery of, look it up. If you look up Greenwood Cemetery online, okay, and they'll show you. I've written an article about that, like, gosh, it's been like 15 years, I think, because I was so blown away by the beautiful artwork, the architecture. Many had those who had obviously been Masons, and mind you, these tombs were from the 1800s. They had Behudet, which is the winged disc, the winged ray with the serpents. On the outside of their tombs, there are obelisks there, what we call Teken. The original name is Teken. There are Tekenu, that's the plural, there. And there's so much more to see. But even beyond that, the layout is gorgeous. For the non-Khametic graves, it's art. I can see why people would take a carriage ride through a place like Greenwood Cemetery, because there are beautiful marble statues. Some are haunting. There's a statue, well, a carving of a woman who is sitting on a bier. She's on like her funeral bed. And then across the way is a smaller one in white marble, and it's supposed to be of her child who died, but the child is not there. The blanket is pulled back, the carved, marble blanket is pulled back. And the question is, where is it? Well, the child is sitting with the mother, who is sitting on top of her grave. It's spooky. It's hauntingly, truly hauntingly beautiful. And there's one with these gargoyles sitting on top of it. It's really quite something. So it was kind of like going to an art museum for people back in the day, taking a carriage ride through such a place. But here's the warning I give people. Before you enter any cemetery, make sure that you are prayed up and cleansed. Make sure that you have all of your protective oils on and protective jewelry, and make sure that you go in respectfully. You never go into a cemetery empty-handed. You always leave something just to show respect, even if you just go and pick up some $6 flowers and leave it at the entrance when you go. You have to do something to show respect, because it is you're entering another realm when you enter a cemetery. Okay. And also, you want to make sure that you don't have something follow you home. There's that. Yeah, that part. Yeah. Okay. So, Paheri is an example of what people in Kemet used to do. I mean, there are all these writings. I'm not going to, I have all these books with all the writings in them. But it's important to see where people are able to write epic stuff about what they did in life. The writings of the Perea, or the pharaoh Pianki, he was also known as, quite beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And in it, he goes into all the details about how he won this major battle. And so, yeah, the writings are just really inspirational. But again, one-sided. All right. So, again, the difference with ancestral reverence and something like Halloween, where children are dressed up in all kinds of different things that people dress up to and are expected to be given treats. That's fun, okay? I mean, I get a kick out of it. I really do. I was at the library yesterday, and the library, I love my libraries. They had a lovely holiday party for the children, and it's a nice, safe environment. You knew the candy was safe. They had pizza for them, and they also made it safe by making sure that adults did not come in without a child. That's safe because that gets rid of all the pervs, you know. But also it kept out people who were just there looking for the free pizza. So yeah, it was a beautiful children's party. And then you have trunk or treat events, and then there was the Halloween party that was here in the city. And on my street is very quiet. I mean, I can say that for all the years I've lived in Newark, I have not seen many trick or treaters. You know, I mean, times have changed, and it's understandable because you don't know people. You know, I mean, unless you really know your neighbor, then you don't really feel all that safe with going and getting candy from strangers. You can take your kids to the mall, or places where there are still malls, but shopping centers, places that are reputable, right? But still, again, going back to the idea that you were not looking when we're doing our ancestral practice. And this is also the time for Fetke Day. It started today. You're not looking for people to give you stuff. It's you who are doing the giving. You that are giving energy. You're giving honor. You're making meals. You are making your ancestral altar even more beautiful. If you're Khametic or in any kind of an African-centered tradition, then you have an ancestral altar anyway. Your Kaut, Shepsu, Yakui Shepsu. But you go the distance on times like this. I mean, you really go out of your way. So I went to the store today after I taught a chair yoga class, and things were just lining up because there was a particular supermarket that I've been trying to get to because they have sorrel. I make my sorrel from scratch, and it really is it's a delicious drink if you make it right. It's a sacred drink. It truly is. but I had not been able to get on that side of town. And don't you know, where I had my workshop today, it ended up being right across the street from that supermarket where they had the sorrel, 2 for $4 a package. And while I was there, I got other things that were germane to my upbringing, and things that were favorites of my grandparents and my parents and my stepdad, and um, things that I'm going to be cooking and leaving out on our my ancestral altar. I have pictures of dearly departed loved ones from the family who departed this year, and where this is the first ancestral season that they're observing with me. You know what? I love this time of year, because to me, I become like Linus. You know how he's waiting for the great pumpkin in the pumpkin patch. That's how I get with ancestor season, because I love my ancestors so much. I'm so proud to be a part of this lineage. I'm so proud to have had people who poured so much into me and who were such great examples to me and for me, as far as how to be in the world and how to strive for success, but also how to remember to encourage family and to stay linked to family, because that's who's going to greet you when you get on the other side. Okay. Gracious Sunchild says, some people say your pets become ancestors too. That's true. It is. Going back to the movie Coco, you know how you had the spirit animals. That was a depiction of what happens, because listen, we're all comprised of spirit, and spirit does not die. So if you had a pet time, well, I don't even like to call them pets. I like to call them animal friends, because they're here serving a purpose. And if you are truly bonded with your animal friend, then you know that you know each other. So you also know the pain that you experience when you lose that animal friend, and they experience pain when they lose you too. So yes, they become spirit helpers for you if you so allow. Some will even take the bullet for you, if you will. They'll take energetically, they'll take your anybody who's trying to throw anything at you negatively, they will take it in order to protect you. And some may all of a sudden just up and die, because the fact that they've absorbed the energy of what was coming at you. They're protecting you. So and then some will just choose that they can make the decision that they can better protect you in the other realm, as opposed to being on this realm. So that's a great question. That's a really great question. Now, truly, I've had some animal friends that really weren't so friendly. I had a Nande parrot that was about the most evil animal I had ever dealt with. And animals love me. This parrot just hated everybody, and he was very aggressive. Nandays can be very aggressive. Peace and blessings. Sen Tyrone, it's so good to see you. Thank you for the love. And Ora Earu Nance, is that correct? Ora Earu Nance. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for being here. Let me know if I got it right, if I came close in the ballpark. So for the ones, yeah, I was saying about this Nande parrot that I had. This thing, our dog was scared of this parrot. This parrot would go into the cage and get a peanut. Listen, we used to give shelled peanuts to him because of the beak. The dog would be sitting at the cage, and we left the door open. And he would just be staring up at the parrot. The parrot would go inside, get a peanut, and throw it at the dog with his mouth, just, you know, the dog would run away. Yeah, so unless he's going to be like a protective spirit in some other way, then I'm not really, we didn't have a cool relationship like that in life. So anyway, but as far as my other animal friends that I've had, I know that they are definitely around me. I'm glad I got your name right. Duau. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so every day, I was saying that for Kemites, we honor our ancestors every day. There is this from the book of Ani. Pour libation for your father and mother who rest in the valley of the dead. God or Nature will witness your action and accept it. Do not forget to do this even when you are away from home. For as you do for your parents, your children will do for you also. So that's some real dedication, to pour libation every single day. Now, if you're traveling, then you can have a little kit, right? I used to make these portable altars. And it had little vessels to be able to pour into, and prayer cloth and all of that. And this is something that they had actually back in ancient Kemet that they would have, and then also many other traditions have it even to this day. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a kit, because pouring libation every day could be as simple as getting a glass. Say you're staying somewhere, you're at some hotel, you get a glass, pour some water into it, and then go and pour it outside. Some people pour into a plant. I like to give it to the earth. And you'll also find that if you have a vessel that you pour into all week, it's really good at the end of the week you want to clear out the vessel, but take the water and pour it on your property in order to protect yourself. Then clean it and refill it, okay, and begin the process of pouring for the week. Because the fact that it's been sitting on the ancestral altar all week, and you also can just go and sit and have conversation with your loved ones who have transitioned. They hear you. And there are some. Well, let me just clarify this. We believe that there are 3 different kinds of people who cross over. And in terms of those who are in the light, we have the Ieku or the Iaku, who walk closest to the divine and who are the closest to the center of light. So say you've got like this big circle, right? And the core represents the Godhead. So you have those who are closest to that core, who have evolved that far and who have vibrated that high. And then those who are on the outside, they're in the light, but they're working to get toward that core. So the ones who are out here are the ones who work more closely with us. And the ones who are outside of the sphere of light, we pray for. Now, I just shared with you a little while ago about how in the Umbanda tradition in Brazil, they give everybody a chance to evolve. This is also, well, some believe that also when it comes to the traditions in Puerto Rico, where some practice what is known as sanse, which is a blend of African, Umbanda, Candomblé, Catholic, Orisha, and a bunch of other things. It's and the Taino. It's a blend. It is a blend that works. It's a blend that works. If that's your bloodline, you find that it makes sense to you. Okay, and it made absolute sense to me. It's like, why am I drawn to all of these different aspects? And but it comes under this one umbrella. That's why. Anyway, so it really depends I think it's kind of an individual thing. It depends not only on the religion that you practice, especially if you're an African faith practitioner, as far as whether you're going to allow those who are not in the light to have a chance to advance. Ideally, they're observing, and you pray for them. That's what I advise people to do. However, if you have those who are kind of like on the fence, all right, and you feel and know that they are willing and able to help, and they're not going to bring harm to you, then so be it. Ideally, we should all be evolving. In my prayers every day, I pray for all of my family members who have transitioned, all of them. And I also pray that we all are evolving. Okay. So, but again, going back to the idea of pouring libation no matter where you are, that is absolutely possible. It is not really all that hard. It's not. It is dedication. Anytime you have any kind of a shrine or altar, then it's not just some fun thing, trendy thing, something that is a fascination for the moment, and then you leave it there collecting dust. That is not a good idea. If you don't have the commitment to deal with your kaut on a daily basis, and if nothing else, like most every day, then you need to just leave that alone and stop playing. Okay, anything dealing with spirit like that, you should not play. This goes along with your altars for the Netcheru as well, and and if you're seeking priesthood, it intensifies, because then you not only have your personal kaut for your personal guardian, and you also have your ancestral, but then you become the caretaker of others as well. So this is why it's good to build up discipline, and the discipline that just comes from pouring libation every single day, giving thanks to those who have been here every single day. That's a big deal. Okay. Now, for the departed loved ones who are really out there, they're highly evolved, but they still want to come back and check on how you're doing. This again is a perfect illustration, like in the movie Coco. One time of year where they it's kind of common. If you have not seen Coco, it's one of my favorite movies. You should see it, because they have to pass the inspection of someone who is going to let them go or not. And so they have this mechanism where it can tell if a person's picture is on the ofrenda, and if ain't no picture, you ain't going. Okay. So but the idea then that they go over this beautiful bridge and leave the realm of the dead and go back into the land of the living to go and spend time with and celebrate with their family members who remembered them. Beautiful. So in the Khametic scripture, I'm going to tell you, those who have this book, the Ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead by Raymond O. Faulkner, the advantage of having this, and I advise people to get many different versions. I have several versions of the Peret Imheru. The advantage of this version is that it is in order. I remember learning this from my Atef Netcher, from Grandmaster Cam, who is an ancestor now. He explained that with the most popular version, which is the Budge version, it's not in order. When these writings were discovered, Budge basically had a photographer just randomly taking pictures. So, it's referred to as plate this and plate this in the Budge version. Well, that's because photos were taken on what were called plates back then. And so they were just randomly numbered according to the order that the photographer took them in. It had nothing to do with the correct order of the Peret Imheru and Ger. This, even though it does not have the meta nature, what the Greeks call the hieroglyphs, as the Budge version does, and that is a wonderful advantage with the Budge version, because it does have the original meta nature and his interpretation, whether it's right or wrong, underneath it, but it does give you the original meta nature. This is all in English. There's no meta nature, but it is in order, and it makes sense, and there is a flow. So here at 132, and if those of you have the book, if you have this version of the book, it is actually on page 146. But this is, I'll call it section 132. It is called, I can read this, for causing a man to turn about in order to see his house upon earth. This is done after the 42-day period when a person transitions. In Khametic tradition, that's what we believe. We believe that a person finishes their transition then, and that was also the amount of time that it took for a body to be properly embalmed, entombed, to dry out, and then to continue the next phase of ceremony. But in the meantime, the body is doing this, so then where is the soul? And once again, you don't want to become a wandering spirit, because that means that you're disconnected from your purpose as an ancestor. And if you're a wandering spirit, then that means that you're going to bring chaotic energy with you, because you're not settled, because you have not accepted the fact that you're dead. Which is, again, why people would put everybody's stuff in with them, even if you were just buried in a hole. If you were a pauper, had nothing, and you got folded up in a fetal position and put in a bag and put in a hole, the little bit of stuff you had went in the hole with you, okay? You were surrounded by your belongings. So there was a wake-up call to the fact that you were no longer on this planet. You're no longer living. Yeah, see your body? Yeah, you see you're not in it anymore, right? You see your stuff around you? This means you're dead. For people who had money and had the elaborate tombs, they had the Peret Meheru either on their coffin, on the inside, or it was on the walls. And basically, what it meant was, if you are reading this, this means that you are dead. Get on with it, accept it, move on to the next phase. Here's the map for how to get to the afterlife, okay? Good luck. So the idea of being a discarnate, which is a wandering soul who is cut off from his or her body and who is aimless and without purpose, that is considered dying in disgrace, okay? But if you are no longer earthbound, and if you have moved on and you're doing your work from the ancestral realm, and now you want to cross over, this is like the cocoa thing, okay? And but the thing is, what helps to bring them is not just having the ofrenda, but also reciting this passage. And this passage doesn't sound like it has anything to do with trying to get somebody to help them to come over, but it is effective, okay? And after the 42-day period, and it is believed that the soul has made their transition fully and gone on to the throne of Wasir and have had their experience being tested to see if their heart was as light as a feather, as my eight's feather. Then the idea is, okay, so now you've experienced that realm, but if you want to come back and see how your family's doing without you, it's cool to see what you need to do to help them, because it's not just about coming to pop in for a visit. It is also truly about seeing what state you left them in, to see how they regarded you too, but to see what you need to do as a departed soul. So it says here, I am the lion who went out with a bow. I have shot, and I have the eye of Heru, which belongs to me. I have opened the eye of Heru at this time. I have reached the riverbank. Come in peace. and you call the name of the initiate. Just those few lines. It's a way of saying welcome, and yes, we want to help you to come back and to see how we doing. Come and check on us, and we want to see also how we are regarding you now that you have transitioned. Okay, so all of this thought went into the afterlife. There are a number of passages in how to pray for those who have transitioned, specific prayers that you can do, certain things that you should avoid. But the main thing is to be an integral part of how a person departs. And also, then, for those who have made the transition, help for them to come and be actively involved if they're able to. But then again, like I said, there is the thought that there are some who just need to be left alone and to rest. Like especially after somebody has a catastrophic illness. Um, Gracious asks, where did you get this passage from again? That was from the Faulkner, Raymond O. Faulkner version of the Book of the Dead. It's a lovely book too. The illustrations in here are beautiful. They're the Khametic artwork, and the layout is absolutely stunning. You will love it. But you'll find that on page 146. It is called Spell 132, but you can just really call it Prayer 132. Okay. And let me just pause right now and ask if there are any other questions. These are good questions coming tonight, too. Okay, so I will, if I see any more, then I will answer your question, okay? And thank you all for being here. And again, this is Shenu Living. I'm Queen Mother Imaku. And oh, yes, please go. Let me put up my website. I have artwork that I'm selling. I have dolls, also handmade dolls that I've created. And you'll see another little surprise up at the top if you go and visit. Also, on the opening page of the website, I have new music that I've been working on, and they are, I have singles for sale. I've done some new spiritual music, and there are stories that go along with them. There is a song that's called La Llorona, which is about the weeping woman. And I was sharing with a friend about why I felt compelled to record that song. It's based on a Mexican folktale, and this is in honor of my my godfather, who is now an ancestor, Don Miguel Ortiz Hill. And he initiated me into the Bantu water tradition. It was a magical, magical experience. And he would often speak to me in Spanish, and sometimes he would kind of get stuck and be like, "Cómo se dice, cómo se dice," It's interesting because he was definitely between both worlds. He was both Mexican and American. He spoke English very well. In fact, he was a profound poet. Oh my goodness. All of his writings were just amazing. And let me see, do I have his books nearby? No, I don't. But he wrote the books. If you Google Michael Ortiz Hill, you'll see one of his books is The Village of the Water Spirits. And he's got a few other books too. And he was also a nurse. So he developed a lot of compassion for those who were transitioning. And that was a major part of how he filtered his approach to the practice, because he saw people in all kinds of conditions. When you're a nurse, you're in a hospital and you see people at their most vulnerable and you know that they're about to leave the planet. If you're a spiritual person, then you feel compelled to treat them a certain way and also to prepare them. That is also part of the work that I was trained to do. I was trained to help people in their transition. This is basically being called a death doula. So, I've been there when people have transitioned, or also when people were about to transition, and I knew in my spirit that it was going to happen. There was somebody that I was with where his sister was dying, and everybody in the family was in denial about it. Everybody. But I knew she was dying. I knew she wasn't playing. Everybody thought that she was just trying to get attention. I was like, I said to my man at the time, I said, she's not gonna be here, And he was just like, she's fine. She's just trying to get attention. Like, she's in the hospital. She's always in the hospital. She's always complaining about this, that, and the other. Listen, she gets out of the hospital. We'll just take her to the mall shopping the way she likes to do, and she'll be just fine. Last time I saw her in the hospital, she was giving her stuff away. That's a clear sign that somebody's ready to leave, okay? They're severing themselves. They're giving away their stuff. She said to me, Imaku, I know that you love to sew. I have this beautiful African print that I've never used, and I've been thinking about it, and I want you to have it. She told me where it was, and I'm sitting there mentally transmitting to her what she needs to do to prepare for her imminent transition, because I knew she was not going to make it another day. And even though she's telling different family members, and I want you to have this, and I want you to have this, and they're like, oh, stop. And the next day, my then husband got the call. All right. And, the whole time he's just like, oh, no. Listen, truthfully, I bought the hat for her funeral the week before she even ended up in the hospital. I just knew. But got to the hospital and the family just fell apart because nobody was ready for the reality of the fact that she was going. But she had the most peaceful look on her face. That's what really messed everybody out, because she was the person in the family that was the what's the term? What is it called when you're the backbone for everybody? But that's what she was. And people were just used to going over and dumping on her. So she's laying there in her hospital bed. Listen, her eyes were still open. I'd never seen that. But you didn't even recognize her because she had such a beautiful countenance. I'd only heard of that, but I mean, her face was glowing and she was smiling, laying there, gone. That's what messed everybody else up, because that's when they really got to see just how much of a burden they had all been on her. It was like, yeah, I'm gone. Bye. Good luck on you. But going back to the whole thing about anticipating somebody's transition and being there to help them, that's a really powerful thing to do. I have an elder who is a dear friend who does it full time. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. It's hard also when you know that somebody's about to transition and they're not in a place of being able to accept it. But then that's again where the death doula comes in. And we talked about the astral. You can communicate with people on the astral, and this is true for anything. Like if you have a beef with somebody, you can actually come together on the astral and try to work it out, right? Truly, So being able to help a person to come to terms with the fact that they are transitioning, and help them in what that would look like, is a huge calling. It's a huge ministry. Here you have birth doulas, but then you also have death doulas. And what are they doing? They are birthing or rebirthing the spirit into the next realm. They're helping the spirit to release from the body. And so that's I know that's a lot. That's a lot. Any other? Oh, I didn't post my website. Let me post the website. I have developed quite a macabre sense of humor over the years. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have faced death so often myself. It makes you not oblivious to it. It gives you more courage in facing it, but also more of a zeal in living your best life. And uh, when also you choose to face down these uh, these circumstances that truly have you hovering between life and death, it gives you a lot to think about. So there's a lot that I find hilarious. Well, it kind of runs in my family. We laugh at pretty macabre stuff. We've been through a lot, but I know I've been through a lot. I mean, I have hovered between life and death so often. It used to be when I was a kid, from when I was 12 years old. Those of you who follow me, you know this. I used to get pneumonia 3-4 times a year. It would be either pneumonia, walking pneumonia, or bronchitis. And uh, so there would always be a period where I would just be just out, okay, just passed out. And it would be several days before. And, thankfully I've broken that cycle. It took a lot of work, but yeah, the approach that we have to death, each of us individually, a lot of times it's based on what we've been through in life. Now, in Khametic culture, there's a lot of really macabre humor. If you read many of the exotic fantasy stories, I mean, you can't help but laugh or think like, what were they thinking? However, life in Kemet was pretty difficult. Anytime you're dealing with any kind of culture that is more, how can I put it? Well, we have our different dangers in every society, right? Then it was about going to the water and not getting eaten by a crocodile, or walking down the road and not being jumped by a lion, or robbers. We still have that today. But I still say this: those who dealt with life on the Hapi or around the Hapi and learned to become symbiotic with nature had to be some of the baddest folks ever. Now, this is true for any culture where you are facing extreme dangers like that: crocodile, hippopotami, eels. Uh, in I live here in Newark. We have a beautiful river, the Passaic River, that winds through many counties, many cities, but you cannot swim in it. They've done a lot to clean it up. You see, Agent Orange was dumped in it decades ago. That's hard to clean up. People used to go swimming in that river until the Agent Orange situation. Now they tell you, even though they've done a lot to clean up the water and they have tours on the water, you can get a boat ride. It's beautiful now to go to these different parks. There was a ribbon cutting the other day on another area of the riverfront park where tourists can go, where residents can go and truly enjoy the beauty and the splendor that is there. You just can't swim. They tell you, don't stick your hand in it. It may not come back. But it's still, because it's a modern day danger. Why? Because of the weapons that that the humans have created in order to inflict harm on others. And then ultimately it has a greater effect on society at large. So it's no different than dealing with having a bunch of crocodiles, hippopotami, and all kinds of other stuff in the water. We each have our challenges. If you have them on a regular basis, it tends to make your view on things somewhat macabre. Okay, but it's also better than being depressed. Um, it's a coping mechanism. It is. Okay, so all right. So any questions? I had my black and purple on today because y'all know part of my heritage is Haitian. Um, I don't appreciate the fact that said individual decided to come for Haitians and for the other side of my culture, Puerto Rican. I think it's also interesting. You should note that election season for the presidency comes when? After All Souls Day, after All Saints and All Souls Day. And do not think that people who are considered the opposition are not calling on their ancestors. Don't believe that for a minute. Ancestor reverence is everywhere. When you see a statue of a fallen hero or of a dead president or of somebody who did this, and this, listen, that's it's no different. It is no different. The only thing is that they're not pouring libation, at least not in your face. Many of these traditions other people know about and utilize. And in the meantime, folks who are of color are discouraged from hearkening to their own traditions. This is why it's important for us to learn who we were, why we do what we do, and what works. What works. Because ultimately, your ancestors will want you to succeed, those who are of the light. But then also, I honestly believe that we have a lot of people who are in this incarnation right now, who are either playing out the agenda of some of their ancestors who were not of the most noteworthy characters, who had their prejudices and their fears and their furies, and have attached themselves to folks today. There are folks a lot of times who do things and don't know why they're doing certain things. It's because of this other ancestral agenda. So there's plenty of that today. And we're seeing behaviors of people or from people that I have not seen openly since I was a kid, growing up in Kenilworth and seeing crosses burned in New Jersey. Yes. So, and now again, this is the whole thing. This is the thing of understanding who did what and in what way they can help you. So, if you know that you had relatives who were really good with money, then you would ask for their advice in the next life, unless they were some kind of gambler and a really disreputable one. But if that's what you are, then okay, you're gonna call on, or they just may show up, right? But the idea is to become your highest and wisest self ultimately. So you don't want to call on anyone who is a question mark, right? Gracious says, what do you think about combining Khametic deities like Enpu, Anubis with your ancestral altar? Don't do it. No. I have, I'm not sure what that word is. It looks like you're saying baser, who I associate with the astral realm. What is that word exactly? Oh, Bastet. Okay, I see. You have a Bastet. So actually, Enpu, okay, because of the fact that he is a guide for those who transition. So okay. But Um, okay, so like I have a Jesus on the cross on my ancestral vessel. Why? Because that's who my people know. The people I grew up with, that's the tradition that they're familiar with. So I'm, even though I know that they know I pray in the Khametic language and I have all these other observances that I do, ultimately, um, in honoring them, then I'm going to honor and respect the tradition that they practiced as well. So if you really build a relationship with your kaut, then you'll find your altar. You'll find out from your ancestors directly. Like, no, don't stick him up here, or like, yeah, bring him. Okay, you know, some may have been Masons who know who he is. Others may have been like, hey, listen, we trust you. It's okay. But for others, it may be don't do it. Don't bring that in here. We don't know what that is. Okay. Just like I remember a friend of mine was telling me that the practice of putting out food for your ancestors is pretty senseless if you go put some tofu out there. He said, your ancestors don't know no tofu, you know? And I mean, unless they were tofu eaters. You don't put out what you like, you put out what they like. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. You know, again, respecting your ancestors. And yes, we are in our just actions helping them because they observe us, they help us in the flow energetically of life for things to be easier. But also, um, if you're working with a tradition that's very high vibratory, then it may be a different set of circumstances where your ancestors are like, hey, have at it. Okay. There have been situations, please excuse me, I'm still, this mouth thing, I'm still healing from. And so there were muscles in my neck that were not being utilized. So now I'm going through this whole thing. I need to get some physical therapy with all this, but my singing voice is back, but I had trouble because with the mouth situation, was not utilizing all of the muscles in my face. So I'm still going through this whole process of readjusting with that. Okay. I was saying, what was I saying? Evolution. Yes. The idea is that we're all supposed to be evolving, right? But I was going to say, I had situations where I've had students who would be studying, but then they had relatives who were Yoruba and were saying, well, what's this? You're studying the Khametic, you know, and in particular, it was like, oh, them folks, okay, who the snooty ones, you know. I mean, because the fact that we are considered to be sort of the highbrow ones of the ATRs, and so in those situations, you have to explain. Listen, this is something that I'm doing that's going to help all of us, and you know, you may have to do some things energetically to clean up your bloodline because of some past misdeeds that your family members or a family member may have done. This whole thing with breaking generational curses is a real thing. It's a real thing. So that may require you to step into this path, okay? Or maybe even this one. And just because it's foreign, that doesn't automatically mean that um, you should separate your practice from what your family members understand, especially if you're there, if you're working to fix things. Sometimes it's a matter of listen, step back, let me do what I need to do, still give me your support. I need you to trust me and help me to get through this initiation because it's a lot, and it's even harder when you have opposition. Okay, it's much better when you, as an individual, have a real strong understanding of the cross correlative factors when it comes to the various traditions. I've been in many. And I've been an ardent student and faith practitioner in them. But my foundation came from the Bible-based church and from knowing scripture, studying scripture, and learning how to do research. And that served in good stead for what I am doing now. But also because of the fact that I've been Khametic for so many years, it has been easy then to spot, well, wait, this passage right here, this is in the Bible, and the Bible came much later. So you're able to see which predates. But it's not about trying to get into an argument with somebody. If somebody asks, I'll share, okay? Or if there's a place where I can gently share without trying to seem like I'm trying to beat somebody over the head or trying to say like, ha ha, my religion came first, yours is born out of mine, there's always the whole thing about having decorum and um, class and sensitivity, okay? And the Khametic scripture talks about that all the time. There's a way to convey information. And there are times when you should and times you shouldn't. But when you do it correctly. Okay? So it should not become some kind of a battle. You shouldn't be experiencing a battle with your ancestors over what you are practicing. There should be support. And for those who are not supportive, then you have the right to tell them to just back off. All right? And they can come back around when they are able to give you energetic support instead of trying to pray you into something else, pray you away from it, trying to just throw all kinds of distractions in order to do what they feel is the best thing when actually they're not really in a place to really get that. They're not. Gracious says, I'm in the process of breaking the curses, the level of what I've been through as a feminine gay person. I'm working on clearing homophobia and racism too in the bloodline. Well, that's something that runs deep in a lot of families. And truly, if there's something more that you want to know about this, all of you can reach out. I am back to doing consultations. So you can just go to the website. Do I have that page open? I have to reopen that page. But even so, you can text me. Texts are preferable if you are reaching out to me for the first time, because I don't answer phone numbers that I don't know. I just don't. And with a text, that's a way of introducing yourself. Do not text me, hey, what's up? Give me a proper greeting. Don't expect also that I'm going to know who you are. If you just text me, say, hey, I'm going to think that you're spam, and I will send you to the spam folder, okay? But also on my website, there are forms that you can fill out. So, just so you know that. I'm about to text I was going to post something here. What was I going to post? I don't remember. Oh, wait a minute. I got away from the whole thing about Yalajo Rona. So, that's a song that you will find. I have snippets of music on the opening page of my website. And one of them is La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. And it is a really sad tale. I mean, the song does not go into the story, but the song is based on the story of the Weeping Woman of Mexico. In this story, she is basically like a really beautiful peasant girl. And she's looking to get out of being a peasant, right? She wants to come up. And this wealthy rancher sees her and decides to approach her and make her an offer. She accepts his offer to marry him, and it's basically sort of like a business arrangement, right? But she ends up having a wonderful life. She gives him 2 sons, and then she starts noticing he ain't coming around so often. What's going on? He's going out of town for these long business trips. One day she's walking down the road with her 2 sons, and the husband pulls up in a carriage with some chick sitting on the side, okay? And yeah, it was a side piece. So she basically is like, what the heck? And He gets out of the carriage, goes over, greets the sons, and then gets back in the carriage with the side piece and takes off. She is completely grief stricken. In this story, now I'm just going to tell you, it's rough. She's so grief stricken that she pulled a what's the name of that woman, Susan Smith, on her kids. She took them to the river and drowned them. Oh, these are the most precious things to you? Then I'm going to take away the most precious things to you. And then she realizes what she did, and she's looking for her children, and because she was just crazy for those moments, and came back to her sanity. And after she realized she killed her own kids, she killed herself. So according to the story, she goes up to heaven, and in some stories it's God that greets her, and others it's Saint Peter. But whatever case, she's asked this question: where are your kids? And she's standing there looking stupid. Okay. So she goes back down to earth. And the story is that she frequents bodies of water. She's usually dressed in white. And you hear her just weeping for her children. Mi hijos, my sons, my sons. And so this is like a fright tale that a lot of Mexican parents used to scare their kids, telling them, don't go near the water at night because La Llorona might snatch you, thinking that you're her son or her kid. But here's the other side. And here's why it's important to have other experiences and other traditions, to do folkloric research, and to find out how things are interwoven. Do you know that there are weeping women spirits in other traditions? For example, in Haitian Vodun, you have Urzuli Foida and Urzuli Dantor. But especially Urzuli Foida, she weeps for the world. I mean, she's just so overcome with grief about how horrible the world is, how mean people are. And so she cries a lot. But with Urzuli Dantor, who Diddy has tattooed to his back, which quite frankly is one of the dumbest things I think he could have done, because she is the vindicator of abused women and children. Why would you tattoo her to your back, knowing that you don't act right and knowing that you're an abuser? I mean, anyway, that's for him to deal with now. But she weeps for the world, and she her weeping is different. She only makes the sound because that's another whole story. But anyway, they weep for the world. There are others in African traditions of stories of forces of nature who weep because mankind can be so wretched, and because the heart is so big. Like with Urzuli Foida, her heart is so big. She is love, 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 love. So she is truly hurt when she sees the unkindness of man. And to become an initiate into the tradition and to be a devotee of hers is at a cost. It is immersion, baptism, just like becoming a nun or a the male version is the priest. There's another term, monk, like becoming a monk. It's not. I'm not saying that in that tradition you have to become a monk or a excuse me, a monk or a nun. But the idea is, though, that you are immersing yourself into a practice where it is about self-sacrifice. And we talked about that in the beginning. And as a priestess of Mami Wata, who also is known to at times weep for the world, because she is the mother of water and all waters, like Imaja, like Oshun. Well, Oshun is not all waters, but still, she has a very, very soft heart and she weeps for the world. My understanding of the story, and especially because there is a line that says, yo soy negra, or well, actually, it was negro at first, I'm a black person. And in Hispanic culture, well, all over the world, we're like the redheaded stepchild all over the world, if you will. But the idea of having a black skin, being negro or moreno, that ostracizes you and you're looked down upon. And there's a line that says basically like, listen, I'm black, and there are those who talk about the fact that I'm black, but still I'm your devotee, and my heart is green and alive for you. And then there's a point in the song where it says, "Cover me with your cape, tapame con tu rebozo, Llorona. Cover me with your cape." In many cultures, especially going all the way back to Kemet, you have a Renenutet, who is known for her garments, or not for her garments so much, but for protecting and infusing holiness and protection into the garments of royalty. But she is associated with capes, just like with Nebuchadnezzar being associated with the veil. Okay, Lynn, how are you? It's so good to see you. We need to catch up. I just got the phone with your buddy before I came on. It's so good to see you. So, yes, the veil is Nebuchadnezzar, but also associated with Sashat because she's the keeper of secrets. But Nebuchadnezzar is known for her veils, and Renenutet is known for the cape or the shawl. So in this song, toward the end, it said, "Love you too." To the end, it says, "Cover me with your cape, Joanna, because I feel cold." And so to me, that is the immersion baptism process. Others, it's a haunting thing, basically saying, "I'm so devoted to you, I'm going to drown myself just like you drowned yourself and die." But no, I see it as an initiation song, just like the song Similo, which many of you are familiar with from I Love Lucy, where Ricky Ricardo, Desi Arnaz, sings a hauntingly beautiful version of this song. So after going through the Vodun initiation, I had a whole different understanding of it. First of all, it's just like, wait, that's not Similo. That's Simbidlo, the Simbi, who is also known as Njusu in the Bantu tradition. But in Congo, it's Simbi. And spirit of the wood, beat the hollow cane, spirit of the wood, take away the pain, make the body whole and alive again. Well, this is what the Simbi does. The Simbi revives you. The Simbi gives you health. Okay, it's symbolized by the serpents. Serpents hang in trees. And, beat the hollow cane, that's the rattling of the rattlesnake scale, but tail, but also it is being in the sugarcane fields and slithering through and protecting it by eating the mice. But there's a whole other meaning. So I recorded a bunch of new songs that deal with the hidden meanings of these songs that became popular in various facets of our popular culture. Okay, so and then also I just posted, I did the song Las Calaveras, which is calavera means skull, but it also refers to the skeleton. So it deals with it's a children's song actually that's quite fun. I did my arrangement of it, which is more, I did it as a house music song. And it's a counting song that helps children count on the clock. And it tells you at 1 o'clock, the calaveras coming out of their grave. At 2 o'clock, they come out and they do this. They're doing all kinds of things. They're coming into the house. They're in your shoes. You're eating your rice. So, you know that song, Brandon? And I, I am. It's so cute. It's but I did it as an upbeat house music tune. So with harmonies, and I overlaid some other parts, and so and it's popular during this time of year, especially in dealing with the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead celebrations. And of course, Fet Gede, you see people, they put the white powder on their faces to represent the Gedes, who are skeletons, right? And and I have to tell you, I'm going to end with this. Well, actually, we're ending with meditation, but oh my goodness, I had the most beautiful experience. They had their very first Dia de los Muertos parade here in Newark. I missed the parade. I'm so busy. I do so much stuff, and I had that day planned, right? I've known about it for 2 months, and I missed the parade, but I got there for the festival part of it, and all of the outfits, there were like almost 50 people dressed as Catrinas. And the Calavera Catrina is based on a piece of artwork that Freda Kahlo's husband, oh gosh, somebody help me, he painted, and it was mocking aristocracy. So you had this skeleton that was dressed in all this highfalutin gear, right? And so it became very popular. And so when people honor the Day of the Dead, when they're honoring the ancestors, they get dressed up looking like skeletons. I saw the most beautiful makeup, I swear, and the most beautiful garb. I mean, fanciful and some exotic, but all culturally based. And the woman who won brought a message with her. She was dressed as a Calavera Catrina, who was a butterfly. I'm going to post it. And her message was about the possibility of transformation in your life if you're a domestic violence survivor. And so I was so happy that she won, because it was a very strong message and unexpected. I went over to her afterwards and I said, I'm a survivor. I really appreciate the fact that you shared that. And she said, oh, please give me a hug. She said, this is why I do this, to bring awareness to people, So, but going back overall, go to the overall fiesta. Wow. I mean, it was wonderful. It was truly wonderful. And to see the deep level of respect that everyone had for the calaveras. There were men also who were dressed, and I mean, they had cultural garb on, and like male garb, but I mean, and the folkloric dancing and everything, which is, oh my goodness. But to see the respect that they had, because they knew that they were representing ancestors. Oh wow, it was everything. It wasn't just like, hey, we're dressed up, no, it wasn't Halloween. It was something completely different. Dia de los Muertos is a sacred tradition, and not that they don't have fun, but the notion that the respect of the ancestors was basically what it was about. It meant everything, and also showed from a cross-cultural standpoint how many of us do the same things. In Fet Gede, you see people wearing black, purple, and white in order to honor the Gede spirits, who are the raucous spirits of the dead. Those are ancestors I told you about that you shouldn't be called. You shouldn't call. But in this case, In the Vodun tradition, is different because here you understand that they serve a different function, and their function is to mock society. They're dead, so they don't have much respect for the ridiculousness that goes on in human life. So they are the justice bringers. Yeah, they're the protectors. If you are, again, in an abusive situation, uh, um, but they also get you to laugh at yourself. They get you to understand that you should embrace every moment of your life, and also that it's okay to color outside the lines. All right. So, yes, yes, Lynn, they are definitely outstanding, and yes, it is absolutely sacred. It's just that's I think that's the thing that I know it's the thing that moved me the most. It just moved me the most. So, but going back to Fed Gede, and going back to the Gede, the Gede are um, they're pretty hilarious. To talk about the macabre sense of humor, that's them, and uh, their offerings are pretty outrageous. Look them up. Look them up. I love the Gede. I keep managing to get with these men who are like Papa Gede, though. I've been working on that because they just it's a little too out there. They just feel like they just do what they want to do. Okay, no accountability, but great protectors if they take a liking to you. Okay, so let's end, if there are no more questions, with a quick meditation. Now, how am I going to do this? Because I'm going to tell you something. I have to replace my TV. I haven't even really noticed that I need to replace it. Why? Because I've been watching everything from my laptop. I started getting all these streaks in my Roku TV, and I read online, oh, just turn it off for several hours and then turn it back on. Unplug it and plug it back in. It has not worked. I mean, one day I just got all these. It was just no, it was just black and with gray streaks. So I said, hey, I'll live. But then tonight I said, you know what? I used to play my music off of my TV. Let me think. By the way, I got this from the Dollar Tree. This is not a product endorsement. This is just mentioning. I got this from Dollar Tree for now nothing's a buck in Dollar Tree anymore. $1.25 still. Yes, I love this. Okay, let's see. Let me turn on Do Not Disturb, because even though it's 12:30, you'd be surprised the phone calls. Let's turn on Do Not Disturb. Okay. Oh, I turned it on. See, I'm ahead of the game here. I see how much. I hope you notice how much better my health is. You see how wonderful my speech is flowing, and like I said, I'm still healing, but I'm so much better, so much better. And so let's see how this sounds. Should I put on my Bluetooth? Let's see how this sounds. Oh, look at me. I'm watching myself on. Okay. So, meditation. And I should tell you, I ended up going to an absolutely lovely ceremony just before I came to you all. And I had intended to come on much earlier, but stuff just happens. And then I was reminded that I was invited to this event on this new moon, and I left there after listen. It was beautiful because I walked in not knowing what it was. A friend at the library, one of the librarians, invited me because he was speaking on a panel. And I forgot about it. He sent me the information a few days ago. And so I set up things for my ancestral altar. I added some new things. And after that, I said out loud, I need to be somewhere with some people who are on the same tip, right? With the same vibration. And then suddenly comes back to my memory. That's a symbiotic thing with your ancestors, right? It came back to my memory that there was supposed to be something going on tonight. And I looked and I said, oh, wow. And the timing was perfect. All I had to do was just walk out the house and walk down there. And I walked in and I knew most of the people there. And it was a grouping I would never have expected to see. And I knew all these people from different situations. And so it was very cool. And the young lady who ran it did a beautiful job. And there was sound healing and refreshments and fellowship and a lot of wise words that were shared. And the panel was really very highly geared on where we are in today's world and what we should do about it. So I was grateful. We had a chance each to introduce ourselves. And so I shared that it was really beautiful that, even though I introduced myself to those who didn't know me, still the fact is most of the people in the room knew me and I knew. And I could attach a positive story based around community with every person there that I knew. And what I did not share was that my memories are all in how they reached out and helped me in various ways. And, also how I was able to interact with them. So that was very affirming. It was very affirming. So, and a lot of them were like hilarious stories too. So, beautiful experience. And then here's the funny thing. After that, I went to Family Dollar, not Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, because I don't even remember if I shared this in the very beginning, but I went looking. I think I should share this on the phone. I went looking for these beautiful Halloween objects that they had. You can find some really gorgeous things that are germane to our culture. Just like I got this beautiful sort of an iridescent capri or kepra last year it was like CVS, and it was on sale 75% off. So I got it for like $3, right? So I see these beautiful things in there yesterday, and I started to get some things because they were 50% off then. I said, oh, wait, all I have to do is wait until tomorrow, because then I can scoop it up for 75% off, right? I went today. After I went to that ceremony, I left the ceremony early so I could go and get these things to add to my kaut. Don't you know, all of it was gone. That all this Christmas stuff, I walked in, I went, yo, what happened? Where's the Halloween stuff? Oh, yeah, that's put away. I'm like, wait, there's nothing? You don't have anything? No, we're on to Christmas now. I was so hurt. But everything in me was telling me, don't go. I didn't listen though, right? I just assumed, just persevere, go on and get it, and then go back and do your live. I could have just skipped the whole thing if I had listened to myself. Anyway, so tell me how well you can hear this. I mean, there's music that's in this program, right, on Restream. However, sometimes it sounds kind of like wonky. How is this? Will this work? Can you hear? Is the sound quality okay? Monique, hey! Peace and blessings, sis. It's good to see you. Y'all may remember when I'd shared about the products that Sister Monique had from Tea Essentially Yours. Okay, so let me set this down. Can you hear me well enough over it? Let me turn down just a little bit. And then I can go outside and check and see who is hanging around outside the mailboxes. Much love, Sister Monique. Okay, let's get into a nice relaxed position as we're about to go into our dream state. And this is a time when the veil is thin, when we're able to receive the most direct messages that we can. Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're able to receive the most direct messages that we can from our loved ones. And you know, ancestors, when we think of our ancestors, it's not just family. We're also dealing with people who were very influential in our lives, who are now in the ancestral realm. I have a number of teachers, friends, elders I grew up with who were beautiful people, who cared enough to show me grace. And I'm sure you do too. Let's get into a nice, peaceful space and surround ourselves in a circle of light. Your Shenu of protection. And inhale, Sadek. Exhale, Nifa. Inhale, Sadek. Exhale, Nifa. Sadek. Nifa. Relax your breathing. As I count down from 10 to 1, you'll leave the presence of your room and enter a sacred space of communion, of blessing, and with the awareness to see and receive messages in safety, in love, and perfect trust. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sejemenkat means to listen intuitively, listen with the gut. What are you sensing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? As we've allowed ourselves to enter into sacred communion and community with our loved ones who have transitioned, we know that this is not the last time. And let us bring back from this time, albeit brief, the important messages and feelings and impressions back into the presence of your space, of your home. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, Sadek. Exhale, Nifa. Sadek. Nifa. Sadek. Nifa. Relax your breathing. Open your eyes. How is everyone? Everyone good? Well, I hope that your sleep is peaceful. And for those who watch this later on, I hope that your day is peaceful. I hope that this season is peaceful. Hebwegu, we have certain things that we do at the end of it. I'll be sharing that with you. And this entire season for us, which is lengthy for us, the veil, like I said before, it starts getting thin at the Khametic New Year. And this is in conjunction with what's happening in the atmosphere and also astrologically. And it goes all the way up into around now, a little past now, into November. B. Lotus says, my mind just released so much tension. Well, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. You know, one of the things that we talked about tonight at the gathering that I went to was the burdens that we carry from previous generations right within our DNA. Trauma from ancestors, from situations also that have been dangerous and threatening and have made us feel unsafe or made our family members feel unsafe. And to release that is a lot of work. We carry tension from those oftentimes we don't even know. So the other part of this season is not just to receive, but it is also to be able to release. But make sure that when you release, that you fill yourself with something positive, because nature hates a vacuum. And the last thing also you want to do is to attract back the same energy that you release. Some people do that. They've lived their whole lives with confusion, with trauma, with drama, whether it's some that they've generated or whether it's been generated from external forces, but they live in that and don't know how to function then without that. So they will attract that back into their lives, or they will go seeking it because it has become as comfortable as a favorite pair of sneakers. And, you know, listen, it gets to be a point where the sneakers got to go, especially if they're threadbare, they're holy. I don't mean holy by, sacred. I mean like that, full of holes. They're falling apart. But you had so many good memories in those rundown sneakers. They don't even feel comfortable anymore, but that's what you know. Go get yourself some new sneakers, okay? Time for some new kicks. So it's been my pleasure to be with you this evening. And we went really long, but I hope that all the information was hopeful to you, and please share it. I am Reverend Queen Mother Imaku, also known as La Serena Imaku. Again, please visit my website at www.imakhu.info to visit my online store, to download my music, and to also, if you want to book a session. Okay. All right. And so we say Merea, which means much love. Heri, which means be at peace. Teni, which means to be accountable. And Jebewi, which means to show mercy and compassion. First, remembering to show mercy and compassion to yourself, but also being careful in who and how you show, to whom you show compassion and how you show compassion. Because there is wisdom in understanding that while you may have insight into a situation, sometimes you need to leave it alone. Sometimes there's more going on than you realize. Sometimes a person's sitting in their karma. And then sometimes you can give a pass to a person who is just continually mean to you. And you're giving them a pass is actually empowering them. So Jebewi is the discharge of a debt. It's forgiveness and compassion. But the thing that we always examine, and my biggest lesson on this path has been how to wield your power. This is power. It is the original peace symbol as well. Much love to you all. Have a blessed rest.